Hello and good afternoon. This is Rick Niderf with Miami's Community News.
And this is Ernie Garcia with Miami Community News.
And we're going to have a conversation about sports present and past. And we vehemently deny any notion that we're screwing off here at the newspaper. So today, let's start about yesterday's sports, the Masters.
Amazing tournament, an amazing tournament. It started out really strange. The Masters is usually a very subdued place, very quiet, very much a stoic. Well, Brandon Chambly tried to make it into a WWE parade. I mean, Apollo Creed and Macho Camacho would have been proud of the way he entered that ring. He was jumping up and down, screaming, shaking everybody's hands. It pretty much turned out to be the way the Lib plays his golf.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's also kind of weird in the Masters.
Kind of weird, yeah, especially for the Masters. I wouldn't have a problem with him doing that in any of the other regular tournaments, but the Masters is kind of special. Really surprised to see that. I kind of like that he's opening up because his whole golf life, it seemed to be about I'm going to out hit everybody, and it wasn't really about I'm going to win this tournament. And now I think he's kind of melding into a different type of golfer. So didn't have a problem with it other than the fact that it was in the Masters.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I mean, I did have a problem with it because basically I think the Masters deserves much more demeanor than that.
Sure.
But the lucky thing for the regular PGA Tour is after the second hole, he could not play golf. Basically, after the second hole, he was done.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that I think the fact that in the LIV Tour, they don't have that same competition that the PGA Tour does.
Yeah.
So they play songs, they dance, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, our man Rory really came through, and it was an amazing tournament. Ups and downs were unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun to watch, and I watched golf for 40 years. I've never seen that kind of tournament with that kind of upsy-turvy situation.
Yeah, and you know the thing is when you see McIlroy strike the ball, whether it's a driver or an iron, it's just so beautiful, and the ball goes so high, and it's really amazing. But then you also see things that you hope you wouldn't see with McIlroy, which would be the finishing putts and things like that. That was a little scary, and I did want him to win because just a lot of people root for him.
He was the people's champion yesterday for sure. I mean, his emotions when he won were really unbelievable. I mean, you could tell the burden that he got rid of was amazing, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad he won. And it's amazing because he's not an American, but 99.9% of the people there were rooting for him instead of the American.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
He has the popularity of Tiger, and
Yes.
And the guy's Irish.
Yes.
You know, from Ireland. It's incredible. I love that. It just shows you how this sport is international.
Yeah.
So,
And I think he'll go on to win a few more majors. I think now that he's got this out of the way, I think you're going to see a whole different Rory McIlroy from now on.
well, it's funny that you should say that because I believe the U.S. Open is being played at a location that he's won multiple times. So he's already won 2 times prior to the Masters this year.
Yes, this year.
So I think he's going to have a Scheffler-esque year.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I look forward to it, and I think we're going to see a lot more of McIlroy in the years ahead.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about something which kind of saddens a lot of Miamians, which is, I guess, the Miami Heat and their play this season. I really think, to begin with, this team was sabotaged this year, and we know who is responsible for that. Jimmy Butler. He wanted out, and he didn't. He essentially gave up on the team, which which is disappointing. You never want to see something like that. But he has a history of doing this in multiple locations. So it's par for the course for mixing metaphors in sports for this guy who wanted out.
Yes, he did. He wanted out real badly. But getting back to that Miami Heat, there's a in Miami. We have a culture. Miami always talks about having a culture. Well, the NBA right now is not about culture. The NBA now is about stars. Stars demand that they get paid more. Stars demand to get traded. They fire coaches. So the whole NBA product now is basically driven by players, not coaches, not teams. And that's the sad part about the NBA right now. That's why they're losing a lot of audience. Attendance is down. Ratings are down. And I think I think the NBA has some really soul searching to do. You cannot have team change, a player change every year, and expect the fans to have any allegiance to that team. And I think the trouble with the Marlins is, the trouble with the Heat is the fact that they relied on culture and not players, and I think that has to change somewhat.
Yeah, really good points. And if we get back to the team itself, they just finished their season yesterday by losing to the vaunted Washington Wizards.
Wow.
Hard to believe, but they rested a lot of players. I get that. They have, I think their position is 10th in the play-in, which means they go to the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday to win. If they lose, they're out. And I'm just wondering to myself, should they win the next couple of games in the play-in and make it to the playoffs and have to go to Cleveland, the number one team in the East, does that make a lot of sense? Or in some way, I'm almost rooting for them not to go because we essentially know what the outcome probably is going to be. And I would rather them have a lottery pick, which in a generational lottery, which this happens to be. This happens every 7 to 10 years or so, where you just get a lot of kids coming out.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, do we want to give that up when we know we need an infusion of youth and talent?
Yes, but I think the Miami culture decries that you go out there and play and try to win. I think basically if you're a competitor, you don't care who you play, you don't care when you play.
Yeah.
If you're a competitor, you want to win. And the Cleveland Cavaliers have not won any championships. They're actually brand new to this kind of setting. The Heat actually have much more experience in championship play than the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. That may be an advantage to them. I don't totally discount the fact that they might lose to them. I think it's going to be a competitive series. I think the Heat have an advantage in coaching, and I think they might give the Cavaliers a little trouble. We'll see.
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but I still, in my mind, I want that lottery pick so badly because you don't see the Heat in a position to have that, and we have I don't know, possibly as much as a 17% chance of moving up to the top four, because that's how it works. The worst team does not get to pick first. That's why this lottery system is so interesting.
It is interesting, and it could be. It's amazing because the NBA has been accused of actually fixing the lottery so that teams that are high-profile teams get the best players. They've never actually proven that, but that's always been a sticking point with the lottery. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and regarding yesterday's game, Jaime Jaquez Jr. scores 41 points, and I believe he had a double with rebounds as well. And I was just kind of wondering, why were we not playing Jaime Jaquez? we could have used a few more wins to move up, and it's kind of surprising to me that we don't play him for the longest period of time, and then we do play him, and he scores 41 points
Wow.
and dominates.
Did Cleveland play the
yesterday.
regular starters?
At Washington?
I mean, Washington.
So
Did they play the regular starters?
No, I think they were missing some players, but we had like 8 or 9 players out. No Bam, no Tyler. I mean, it was just kind of weird. But okay, so I think we've discussed the Heat long enough, as much as they deserve. In any case, let's talk about something that's been happening more and more, sadly, which is Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins.
Wow. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has been a problem for coaches for a long time. Basically, he does his own thing, and I think the Dolphins did something wrong by letting him do his own things for a period of time. We talked about him missing practices, not doing this, not doing that. When you allow people to do whatever they want to do, they will do whatever they want to do, especially in Miami. I always felt with the Dolphins that they always underachieved. While they had some great players for 20 years, they've always underachieved because I think the distractions in Miami are a lot. If you go back to the Shula days, you'll find out that a lot of these players got into trouble with the law right after they finished. I think that always hurt them. Dolphins somehow always seem to lose at the end of the year. When they should be winning, they're losing. They start off really hot, but they're losing. And right now, they're in kind of football purgatory. They're good enough so that they actually compete for the playoffs at a low level, but they're not bad enough so they can't get a high draft choice.
Well,
so they're stuck in like an 8-8 method for quite a few years now.
Yeah, absolutely. That is sad, and that's why we have 25 years of no playoff wins.
Yeah.
That's we're number one. So that's not good. But regarding Tyreek Hill, what is it about a player when they're so good or so fast that you overlook the fact that he's relatively a horrible human being sometimes? I mean, it's just, we put up with it, but to see him holding that baby and looking over in Sunny Isles at his condo at the balcony. Yeah,
it was sad. It was sad. It was sad.
Oh my goodness!
It's actually a case of child abuse. But people like Tyree have been coddled their entire lives, from junior high school to college and the pros. They've been able to get away with everything they wanted to do, and basically, when you don't impose limits on people, they basically do whatever they want to do, and that's basically. I think the Dolphins have allowed some of the things to go on which they really shouldn't have gone on. I think it's coming back to haunt them. Interesting about the Dolphins, though. When we see another quarterback run in the football league, everybody's saying "go, go, go." When we see our quarterback run, we say "get down, get down, get down." We say "no, no, no."
Right.
So we're the only quarterback in the league that's not allowed to run on any particular basis, which is hard because right now the quarterback in the NFL has become you have to have a mobile quarterback. You have to be able to run, and the Dolphins just don't have that.
Yeah, kind of also. On that note, kind of interesting. The backup quarterback that we decided to go with is the Jets' failed #1 draft choice.
Wow.
Yeah,
he does have talent, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him throw the ball. He does have talent, but talent doesn't just mean anything in quarterback. You have to know. You have to make decisions. You have to study. You have to do a lot of things. That's always been the trouble with the Dolphins the last couple of years when.
Skylar Thompson.
No, but the Tua gets hurt.
Yeah,
they never have an adequate backup.
Yeah,
and that happened last year. Who was the adequate backup? Skylar Thompson.
He looked like, as I've read this before, a deer in the headlight. Yeah, he just was not ready. And it's really sad because he had potential. I think he came from like Kansas State or so. Yeah, it's just sad. And then we had Baltimore's backup, Tyler Huntley. He was better, but still not a good
No, he
backup.
was. It was not. It's not a NFL starting quarterback.
Mm-mm.
They need another one. Actually, I think the Dolphins should draft a quarterback. I think.
Yeah,
I think
I
it's important
think
for them. If I was an NFL manager, I would draft a quarterback every year
they
in
a
the
lot of
later
teams
rounds.
do that, Ernie, and considering we have 10 draft choices in the 7 rounds, we can easily do that, and
Yeah,
it's a good draft for secondary quarterbacks,
it is.
just as it is for tight ends and defensive tackles, which, by the way, we need tackles, we need offensive guards, we need cornerbacks. We need so much.
We need
It's
a lot of players.
yeah.
You need a lot of players.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a Dolphin fan, but
That's true. But the fact that you humor me and allow me to talk about the Heat with you in private discuss and Dolphins in private discussion is well worth it.
although I enjoy watching the Dolphins play. I mean, we're in Miami. Um, being a diehard New England Patriot fan, I see us differently. But I like to see Miami do well because I think it does well for the economy. It does well for the spirits of the people. So we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those years where it's make or break for the coaching staff.
Oh my goodness.
I think this
Yeah.
is it. If they don't produce this year, if they don't win playoff games, I see this coaching staff gone.
Yeah, there's we have a really great owner in that he builds the best facilities. He if the team needs players, it's not a money issue for
No,
him
it
at
never
all.
has been. He's overpaid a lot of people
Yeah,
over the years.
yeah, most definitely, which is really terrific. But he also has this great love for Chris Greer, which is nice. You love your employees; they've been with you for years. I get that, but when they fail to succeed in what they're trying to do, which is win playoff games, you have to look at everything. I hope Stephen Ross is ready to evaluate like that if we have another season like last.
I think he has to. I think basically this is it. I think the staff will be gone if they don't make the playoffs, and if they don't win a playoff game. I
Yeah.
think this is a make or break year, like I said, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, glad to hear. Yeah, it's all about football, right?
It's always about football.
So okay, so we're gonna talk about baseball right now.
Baseball.
And what I could start off with current, which would be the Miami Marlins kind of playing better than you would expect, considering we're 15 games into the season and they've got 8 wins, which I didn't think they'd have for an entire month. So very, very encouraged by the youth on the team. And there's something about that. They're really playing together, and they each is rooting for each other, each player. I wasn't expecting that. I like what I'm seeing from the manager McCullough. Kind of really surprising. But last week you brought up a subject.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Which was very very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people on the East Coast and on the West Coast have their views on it. Why don't you expand on that?
Okay. Every time you talk to hear a radio broadcast about Otani, the player for the Dodgers, they always think of him as the face of baseball. Now, I did some digging as to the face of baseball. I think the face of baseball is Aaron Judge. Now, I did some digging about a 162 game season, the averages that they both have. Otani averages 43 homers and 106 RBIs. Judge averages 52 homers, 119 RBIs. Judge also plays the outfield, and last year, playing center field at Yankee Stadium, one of the most difficult stadiums to play, he committed one error. Otani never plays the field. Now, who is more valuable? Why is it that the media keep insisting that Otani is the face of baseball when if you look at the statistics and you look at the records, Aaron Judge is just as good, and I think it's superior ball player because he plays the outfield. Now, you could say Otani pitches. He didn't pitch last year. He may not pitch this year. But I think we're enthralled. Well, the LA bias in sports is unbelievable. If you look at all these sportscasters, they all live in LA. They all preach the Dodgers. They think the Dodgers are the world's, greatest thing since apple pie. And I think Judge, which is in New York City, in the biggest market in the world, is being overlooked. And I don't quite understand why, but I'm working on
it. Okay, so yeah, you know what? You've just made a lot of New York Yankee fans who happen to live in South Florida very happy with your thought process on that. I only just kind of bring up what they said about Babe Ruth, 1919 Boston Red Sox, a pitcher, superior pitcher.
Yes.
Ridiculous offensive player. And then you see Ohtani outperforming what Babe Ruth did as a pitcher, not necessarily as a hitter, but he's just a brilliant hitter as well.
Yes, but if you look at the records, he has not outperformed Babe Ruth as a pitcher. Babe Ruth had a lower ERA than he did, and he won just as many games as Ohtani did. And Babe Ruth never had Tommy John surgery. Of course, there was no such thing as Tommy John surgery.
That's
correct. But in those days, pitchers actually pitched. They just didn't throw for 5 innings or 4 innings,
right? And
they called it a complete game. In those days, pitcher actually won 9 innings. So it's amazing. I've heard people say Ohtani is better than Babe Ruth. Now, I think that just shows the lack of knowledge of baseball history. When Babe Ruth was hitting 50 homers, everybody else was hitting 10. Babe Ruth, without baseball, without Babe Ruth, the 1919 White Sox scandal would have destroyed baseball. But Babe actually lifted up. So historically, and both performance-wise, I think the Babe is still the Babe.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
So true.
And I'm standing by it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That I certainly would.
Being a Yankee fan, of course.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. It's funny. When I was growing up in Washington, D.C. in the early 60s and mid-60s, we had the Washington Senators.
I remember them well.
Yes, first in war, first in peace, last in the American League. And so you had to root for somebody. And I always and the Yankees had Mickey Mantle. So I just loved the it thing about the Yankees is just you just had to follow them. They were so good. And the children in Washington D.C. didn't want to go through a depression worrying about their Washington Senators because they were so bad that they get shipped off to other cities.
They would get, like and the ones they kept were really Texas. Underrated. I mean, I remember a pitcher called Camilo Pascual for the Washington Senators was probably the best pitcher in the American League for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
but he barely had 500 records because he was playing for the Washington Senators. He had tremendous ERA, pitched a lot of games, completed a lot of games. But playing for Washington, you get lost somewhere.
Yeah, without doubt. So yeah, I understand and appreciate, and I love watching the Yankees play. Not so much the Mets, because they're in the same division as the Marlins.
Yes.
So in any case, how do we stand for time?
3 minutes.
So okay, very good. So
we can edit this, right? This can be edited.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Maybe not.
Oh, we could talk a little bit about the NCAA basketball tournament that just finished.
Yeah, absolutely. So, people used to think about Houston as being a mid-level major. But they played in the Big 12, and they played against Kansas, and they beat Kansas twice at home and away. So in my book, Houston is everything that people would expect.
Houston has a tremendous history with basketball. I mean, going back to the Elvin Hayes years, they made the Final Four twice.
Right.
With Hakeem and the flying what were they called, five slamma jamma.
Yeah.
They went to 3 straight finals. Unfortunately, they never won. But Houston's always been a basketball powerhouse. This is a renaissance of what they used to be. Now, when I was growing up, there were no close games because UCLA had all all-stars back in the 1960s. But one of the things that people talked about was the fact that people lost games in the last minute. They thought they were choking. But if you look at the history of the NCAA, I mean, we have people like Freddie Brown from Georgetown throwing the ball to North Carolina in the final seconds.
Yeah.
We have people like
Good. That's a good one.
that's a great one. Also, who's the guy from Michigan? I can't think of his name right now. With Chris Webber. Chris Webber.
Yes.
Dribbling the ball, walking the ball, going to the corner, and calling a timeout. And Chris Webber is now in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So the fact that these kids, because kids actually, get nervous in the last 2 minutes and do strange things is nothing new.
Sure.
I remember Kiki Vanderway missing a layup against Louisville in the final championship game, and Kiki Vanderway was a tremendous player.
So yeah, UCLA, yeah, definitely, really good. Walter Scott Jr. So I'm watching the game, and we talked about Walter Scott the day before, how brilliant he was. I think he put up like 34 points. Did not have to say that he did not have a good first half is an understatement.
Yeah.
And I was kind of saying to myself that what was so interesting about that is that they managed. Houston managed to keep a lead. Florida managed to stay close, and I thought if he has the same a good second half, this could be Florida's game because they managed to their height.
They
really
were
kind
close
of
without the best player having a good game.
Yeah. Which said something,
Yeah.
and the fact that he did wake up and
he had some
really
very big baskets at the end of the game.
big, and Florida being the big team that they were, they just started to dominate, but it was still back and forth until the very last.
Every game that Florida won, they were losing. Almost every game they were losing in the second half. So it just goes to show the resiliency of the team.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the ending of the Florida game when they were celebrating. The Florida coach, I've never seen such animation from a coach before. He was yelling, screaming, had the hat on backwards. It was like, wow. What's his name? John Wooden would not act like that. But today's basketball has totally changed.
Yeah, it absolutely has. So we could talk forever, but
right.
but I think our time is up here. And
thank you very much. I really enjoyed this.
Ernie,
we'll do it again.
Man, I talk to you all the time about sports, and I love doing it. And I thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.